Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And if you don't think things are changing out there, what you need to know is what's happened to Playboy. Did you see that? I don't know what Dawn's going to do now. Playboy magazine is going to cease publishing pictures. You know why? They've been done in by porn on the internet. Isn't it the most amazing thing? The original porn magazine done in by porn. Well, you might know it's soft porn and all that, and I know a lot of you people claim you just read the articles, but anyway, that's some of the best evidence you can find that things are changing. Not that you need it, but if you wanted to catalog it, you could. Anyway, big day here, folks. Here on the EIB network, Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. Caller Clinic yesterday, must tell you, I meant to mention this at the end of the program yesterday, and I didn't get to it, but every caller yesterday was superb. Did a little brief caller clinic, just sort of a recap of procedures here, and every caller just followed directions to a T. A caller clinic has nothing to do with content. It's not an attempt to change what the callers have to say. It's simply about brevity. Get in, get it, and get out. And a key reminder, I think a lot of people, certainly I think this is really true, I think callers think that you and I talk before they go on the air. Well, it's a natural thing to assume because, callers are saying, I look like I was just telling your screeners. I don't know what you just told the screener, and it doesn't matter because nobody heard it. So, at any rate, do you remember the first Fox debate? The first Fox Republican debate, and specifically the opening questions of Donald Trump, who, by the way, Trump has announced that he's going to live tweet the Democrat debate tonight. That Trump is going to have more people reading him on Twitter than are going to be watching this debate. Speaking of which, have you noticed that CNN is downplaying the expectation of ratings tonight? If you've missed that, don't doubt me. They're downplaying the ratings. It's like Les Moonves of CBS is back again today, talking about how ratings on TV are not as important as they used to be. It's tough to find them. And man, what a built-in excuse for not getting any ratings. And that is to say that they don't matter anymore. Now, here's CNN, and they've been salivating. They've been chomping at the bit. They're going wall to wall here from the Wynn Resort in Vegas, promoting this debate and going overboard. I mean, they countdowns, and everybody that works at CNN seemingly is in Vegas, seemingly on the ground at the Wynn Resort, just hyping this thing and promoting it out the wazoo, and then telling everybody, yeah, well, don't look for the kind of ratings Fox got. Why not? I think expectations ought to be raised. After all, who's in this debate? The smartest woman in the freaking world is in this debate. Hillary Clinton is in this debate. What do you mean ratings are going to be down? Shouldn't ratings be skyrocketing? This is the presumptive Democrat nominee. This is the next president of the United States, according to CNN and the Politico and the New York Times, NBC, ABC, CBS, USA Today, Los Angeles Times. Take your pick. She's the next president. What do you mean ratings are going to be down? I think expectations need to be raised, not lowered. And if Hillary Clinton fails to deliver, that's her problem. My guy, if I ran CNN, I sure as heck would not be making excuses before the thing even starts. But that's what they're doing. And they're admitting that this field of candidates, by the way, which is all white, even Van Jones, the acknowledged communist from the regime, he got thrown out of the regime in a controversial thing. He was discovered to be a communist. They had to get rid of him. He couldn't hide it anymore. So he's at CNN. Just like environmentalism is a new home of out-of-work communists, so is CNN. So he's over there, and he's talking about how it's just horrible. He said it's very bad. Widest field since 1992, and there's one woman and no people of color. You look at the Republican lineup, and you have diversity across the board. And of course, it never counts for anything. But anyway, seriously, folks, I'm being dead serious. I know it sounds funny. I'm a naturally funny human being, but I'm being dead serious. CNN ought to be raising expectations. If you run the place, you got the big Democrat debate. It's been overdue. People supposedly it's the most popular party in the country, right? Mrs. Clinton, the most popular woman, the smartest woman. I mean, you've got the big draw, and you're downplaying it? If I ran CNN, I'd be hyping this thing. I mean, they're hyping it by hyping their coverage and stuff. You know what I saw them do? You know what I saw on CNN? Have you ever watched a television documentary on anything, and they'll have cutaway interviews with people in the documentary with a black background, looks like the Charlie Rose set. And they'll be talking about their role in the documentary you're watching. But they've been doing this with their reporters. Dana Bash and Anderson Cooper have been cast in standalone interviews explaining what they're going to do tonight, how they're going to do it, what they're going to expect, how they're going to drag whatever out of whoever. I mean, it's a total exercise in narcissism. It's watch this debate because of us. But they're downplaying expectations with the smartest woman in the world. And I think they ought to be building it. And I'm being facetious because, of course, they can't build up because she's not a draw. She can't sell any books. She can't draw a crowd anywhere. That's what they know. That's why they're relying on trying to get people to tune in to watch Anderson Cooper and Dana Bash and whoever else. I don't even know who else going to be. Jacob Tapper, maybe. But if I were CNN, I'd start listing reasons why Hillary's debate ratings will exceed Trump's. For example, Hillary Clinton's been richly supported by most of Hollywood for decades. Hollywood influences American culture like no other. And they've had all this time to promote her. Trump just had a single reality TV show. Hillary has Hollywood, okay? Hillary Clinton owns the entire education system. She owns all federalized union workers. She owns most of the media. Smartest woman on earth. Republicans are conducting a war on women. I mean, it's made to order. Except everybody knows that the vast majority of people tuning in tonight are going to be looking for a car crash. Really. I think it's just juicy. And I'd back to the way Fox opened the debate with questions of Trump. You remember that. Mr. Trump, you have said the following about women. Blah, 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 blah. Well, just to show you what you will not see on the Democrat debate tonight, we prepared a little, if only, parody.
We now join CNN's live Democratic presidential debate, brought to you by our sponsors, Prostate Magic and the League of Left-Handed Transgendered Voters. Secretary Clinton is giving her opening statement.
And I want to thank CNN for hosting this debate so that we as candidates can address the issues that are so important to the American people. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Secretary Clinton. Now, our first question of the night.
Mrs. Clinton, let me mention 7 names. Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey, Jennifer Flowers, Monica Lewinsky, Beth Dezoritz, and Denise Rich. Now, tell us, how can you look at anyone with a straight face and talk to them about family values when it takes a village to satisfy your husband?
Okay,
This was CNN.
Just to show you the differences in the way these debates happen, it's a totally legitimate question. I mean, if it's legit to ask Trump about the things that he has said about women in the past, why is it not relevant to ask Hillary about her husband? He's going to be the co-president or the vice president, or the first man, first gentleman, whatever. And you've got reports now, the bimbos are resurfacing. Jennifer Flowers out there showing up, claiming she's got a secret. The only reason she's alive is she's got a secret in a safe deposit box. Did you see that? Yeah, it was at WorldNet Daily. She's got some secret about Clinton in a safe deposit. But I mean, I'm adding that the reason she's alive. But I mean, she's got some secret that she's kept. She's close to the vest for just this kind of moment in time in the future. Don't know what it is. But it's a highly relevant question. Hillary went to the hotel where Trump is staying in Vegas and taunted him, supposedly, yesterday. I mean, it's childish. And you know something else that happened? You know that we had a soundbite yesterday from the No Labels convention in Manchester, New Hampshire, which now is run by John Huntsman, Republican, and Jim, I'm having a mental block on the no, that's Huntsman. It's Huntsman, and then there's some Democrat. You know, it used to be Mark, the guy that ran McCain's media back in 2008. I can't remember. Mark, can't remember his last name. Anyway, we played for you a soundbite from this yesterday where Trump got a question about women and so forth, and we played his answer. And it turns out that woman who asked the question was a Jeb Bush plant. Jeb Bush campaign planted a woman in the audience at the No Labels deal. Mark McKinnon, yeah, that's the guy's name, Mark McKinnon. So anyway, they plant this woman. The Jeb Bush campaign puts a ringer in this audience at No Labels. A woman who works on his staff, has worked on Huntsman's staff. Her name is Lauren Batchelder. And she is an intern here and an intern there, but she's a campaign activist for Jeb Bush, and she was sent in there to ask Trump question about women and so forth. This is such a juvenile thing. You know, the amazing thing about this is Jeb Bush would never do this to Hillary Clinton. Nor would any of these other Republicans. They'll run tricks. They'll run juvenile little things like this against other Republicans, but they will never do this. Jeb Bush nor anybody else in this Republican field would dare try to stack a Democrat meeting like this and put a ringer in there to ask embarrassing questions of Democrats, but they will do it against their own. Grab audio soundbite number 14. This is how it started. This is that woman, Lauren Batchelder, at the No Labels Problem Solver Convention. And she's a woman stood up and asked this question. This is the Jeb Bush campaign worker.
Okay. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can prove me wrong, but I don't think that you're a friend to women.
Right, and then here come the cheers. You know, that question had to be planted because there's nobody on earth that would naturally ask that question. Not of Trump. Unless it's a planted question. And so here you have a Republican presidential campaign, the Jeb Bush campaign, trying to expose a fellow Republican using this stupid war on women thing that the Democrats created. It's juvenile in this day and age to think you're going to get away with this, number one, that these people can't be found out. It's the age of the internet, number one. So you're going to find out who these people are. Number two, it's so weird. It's obviously a planted question. Here was the way Trump dealt with it.
I knew I shouldn't have picked her. I respect women incredibly. I have had women working for me in positions that they've never worked in terms of so many different jobs. I had a woman who was in charge of the building of Trump Tower many years ago, before anybody would have even thought of it, and did a fantastic job. I have given women more opportunity than I would say virtually anybody in the construction industry. I have a daughter named Ivanka and a wife named Melania who constantly want me to talk about women's health issues because they know how I feel about it, and they know how I feel about women. I respect women. I love women. I cherish women.
And the Jeb Bush plant, Lauren Batchelder, had a follow-up.
I want to get paid the same as a man, and I think you understand that. So if you become president, will a woman make the same as a man? And do I get to choose what I do with my body?
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job. And I happen to be pro-life. Okay? I'm pro-life. Okay.
So if you're going to send somebody in, that may come back to give him some problems down the road. But if you're going to send somebody in to taunt Trump, why do it on this? Why not send somebody? It's the No Labels Convention, right? Why not go in there and harangue Trump about what he said about Mexican immigrants? Why not send somebody stand up and ask Trump about saying McCain's not a hero? Somebody reignite those things. Maybe they didn't do it because Trump's already survived those. But the fact that they chose, the Bush campaign chose a woman to go in there and try to expose Trump on the war on women, a Democrat lie. It's just juvenile. It's just juvenile, and it's right out of the Republican establishment. And it was going to get caught. It was going to be exposed. And maybe they said to themselves, well, of course it's going to be exposed, but we're still going to get the event. We're still going to get the question asked, and hopefully Trump will embarrass himself in the answer. And so the fact that we staged it won't matter. But it's backfired, as it was destined to backfire. Anyway, I got to go to the first break, first busy, obscene profit time out here on the EIB network, and we're coming right back. So, having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Great to have you with us here, El Rushbo, behind the golden EIB microphone. Did you see, what was it? I forget where Obama said this. It was 60 Minutes or maybe some interview somewhere. Anyway, we made mention of it yesterday that Obama said that Hillary made a mistake on this email server business. And my observation was, that's not good. Hillary's out there trying to say nothing happened, wasn't a big deal. When the president comes out and says that she made a mistake, then that puts the onus on her. All of this on the Democrat side now, and media side. I mean, this doesn't affect us because, we're dealing with a bunch of, people are strangers to the truth. But on the Democrat side, the Democrats, a lot of people, donors are really worried about this email thing. They're worried about Hillary's plummeting in the polls. They're really worried about a lot of things, and they're worried that they got all this excitement about Bernie Sanders. I don't know what they're going to do with him, except they know they're not going to let him have a nomination. Now they got to figure out how they're going to make that happen. So Obama's come out, and he added to this. He said that Hillary's illegal server was not a national security problem, which is rich coming from Obama, because Obama is America's number one national security problem, if you ask me. No, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not going for laughs here. I really mean it. I think Barack Obama is our number one national security problem or risk, whether by accident, by design. But I don't know what else you'd call somebody who enables the Iranians to nuke up, and then sees to it they end up with $150 billion to do with whatever they want, including buy new Boeing airliners and go out and sponsor terrorism in the Middle East. It doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence in what's going on with Syria and the fact that Putin and Russia are making a move on the entire Middle East. Yeah, it doesn't exactly comfort me that the President of the United States is who he is, doing what he's doing. But I just think it's rich claiming that Hillary hasn't posed any national security problems when he is number one risk, if you ask me. There's even more devastating news for Mrs. Clinton, ladies and gentlemen, and it is that she now loses to any Republican. She loses to any Republican in the field. I don't care what the powers that be inside the Democrat National Committee, the Democrat Party, think or have planned or what, but this is not part of the plan. This was not something they factored or figured would happen. In the first place, nobody figured Trump to be where he is, and beyond that, nobody figured Ben Carson to be where he is. Ben Carson Ben Carson's lurking out there in second place, and he continues to light it up. Ben Carson is every bit as unfiltered honest as Donald Trump is. You know, Ben Carson has shaken up the political structure with an answer to a question on welfare that is something you and I have known and have believed all of our lives. And it's fascinating to me to watch people in public life, in the media, the Democrat side, just react in shock and outrage that anybody thinks this kind of extreme stuff. There were a couple of examples of this yesterday. I've been trying to think of them. I'm still suffering the ravages of this evil virus, folks. I mean, it's a struggle here to stay 100% focused. I'm close, but it's still there. This is a vicious, vicious thing. Snurdly has it now, which means everybody's going to get it. But anyway, wish I could remember what these two things were, that they're just normal, everyday common sense. I think there were things that Trump said that nobody can believe. Ben Carson went out and said that welfare increases poverty, creates dependence in people, and is only being used to buy votes. And you would have thought that the most politically incorrect insult ever had just been made. And all that Ben Carson said is just a simple common sense axiom. Welfare in this country has become vote buying. Santa Claus. That's what the Democrat Party has arranged. That's why they want the illegal immigrants. They want dependent. They need a permanent underclass. None of this is new. But you know what else is shocking about it? Honestly, Ben Carson is the only Republican saying things like this. When it's standard, ordinary, operating procedure, common sense every day. Meaning there isn't an establishment Republican anywhere in the last 10 years who has spoken of welfare this way. Or maybe 15 years. And the fact that Carson's out doing it, an outsider, not part of the political business or machine, not part of the establishment inside the Beltway, whatever, not a politician by trade. So he's just out there uttering simple, common sense truths. And you would think that he has insulted somebody with the greatest insult ever. I'm not exaggerating this. The people who are reacting to this are not mocking. They're not faking their outrage. They're not doing it in order to portray Carson. Some of them are, sure, but the vast majority simply can't believe he thinks it. They can't believe he would say it. It's mean-spirited. It has no compassion. It's the epitome of extremism and mean, just plain mean, to say things about welfare like that. Yet that's exactly what it is. But that's why Ben Carson's where he is. He is not losing ground. Carly Fiorina in some polls is down to single digits, but Ben Carson is just right there. And he has a soft, mellow manner and manner of speaking, which betrays his thoughtfulness or portrays his thoughtfulness. He's not a shoot from the hipster kind of guy. It's like his statement about the Holocaust would have been a little bit tougher for Hitler and the gang if the Jews had had weapons in the Warsaw ghetto uprising is evidence. The Jews there did have guns, and it was a tough thing for the Nazis. They had a tougher time there than elsewhere. He was exactly right. The point is exactly right. Common sense everywhere. And it's just mind-boggling that this kind of common sense, which used to be standard operating procedure in a Republican playbook, isn't there anymore. Takes an outsider, a couple of outsiders like Trump and Ben Carson to articulate what we all know to be ordinary, everyday, fact of life truth. That's how far gone into the entire big government meme the Republican Party has gotten to. But anyway, Mrs. Clinton, now being beaten by every Republican. And I guarantee you this was not factored. Whatever they thought would happen on the road to the coronation, they didn't think this was going to happen. They're upset on the Democrat side about all the enthusiasm for Bernie Sanders and none for Hillary. Now you throw Biden into this mix. We have a Reuters story here by James Oliphant. Half of Democrats want Biden in the race. This is a Reuters poll. Drumbeat for Joe Biden to jump into the 2016 presidential race is growing louder. Almost half the nation's Democrats want the vice president to enter the field and challenge Hillary Clinton, according to a new Reuters poll. Biden won't be at the debate tonight, but 48% of Democrats surveyed in the poll wish he were a candidate, compared with 30% who said he ought to stay out. Support for Biden's entry into the race does not translate into equal passion for his candidacy, however. Just 17% of those surveyed said Biden would be their first choice. So you got 48% of these Democrats in the sample want him in there, but only 17% of those would support him, would make him their first choice. 46%, again, of the 48% who want Biden in would support Hillary. Biden would also run behind Bernie Sanders, who remains the favorite of 25% of all the Democrats surveyed, which would seem to contradict some of these polls that we have seen that claim Biden would be the most popular candidate if he were to enter the race. According to this Reuters poll, that is not the case. And then the Politico story, Hillary donors worry all the energy is with Bernie. Hillary Clinton's major donors want her to show more fire in Tuesday night's debate. Meanwhile, Hillary's on Saturday Night Live admitting that she's a robot, trying to be funny. Oh, yeah, I'm a robot. I'm this. I'm all the places to go to rehab your image and to relaunch and relaunch and relaunch your campaign. How many launches has Hillary had now? With both candidates set to release fundraising totals this week, small donors have provided the overwhelming majority of the $41 million raised by Bernie Sanders through the end of last month, a tally that's expected to exceed every campaign except Hillary's. Her campaign pulled in $75 million between mid-April and the end of September, but a much larger percentage came from donors who each gave close to $2,700, which is the maximum. So Bernie Sanders considered to be the candidate of the everyman because he's getting the lion's share of the $10 to $15 to $25 donations, and Hillary's raking in the majority of $2,700 donations. But see, the big donors know that Hillary can be bought or rented. I don't know if you ever buy a Clinton. You actually just rent them. You know, the Clintons ought to just establish themselves as an Airbnb business. Might even do that with the White House if she gets back in there. But you can rent Hillary until a bigger donor comes along, and then you'll get thrown overboard for the bigger donors. Clinton's big money donors contend she could tap into the small donor fervor if she wanted to, but she's not, and this has them very, very worried. And this is not the first story we've seen describing nervous donors. We've had it about Jeb. We've had 2 or 3 of these about Hillary. But still, throw all of this aside because it isn't going to be Bernie Sanders. Look, I could end up being profoundly wrong about this. I just don't see, and there are powers that be in the Democrat Party, and I just don't see them letting that happen. That would upset everything the Democrat Party has transformed itself into with nobody noticing in the last 20 years. The Democrat Party is the party of the rich. The Democrat Party is the party of Wall Street. The Democrat Party is the party of the wealthiest people in this country, and they have managed to keep that a big secret, make everybody think they're still a big blue-collar party. And they're not. The Democrat Party is also the recipient of the most foreign government money. And that would be the Clinton Crime Family Foundation. Speaking of that, Doug Wilder, he's the former governor of what state, Snerdley? Pop quiz. Doug Wilder, exactly right, and he's the man named in honor of the Wilder effect. The Wilder effect, for those of you in Rio Linda who are new to this and don't know, the Wilder effect is white people in a poll lying to pollsters, telling the pollster they are going to vote for the black candidate so that the pollster doesn't think they're racist when, in fact, they're going to vote for the white candidate all the way. The Wilder effect essentially produces much higher poll results for African-American candidates than are genuine. And it was named after, because Doug Wilder, in one of his election campaigns, was just polling through the roof. And then when the election came, you could hardly find any votes. So the political scientists got together and they dubbed it the Wilder effect. And there's another candidate, too. There's two people that share this honor. Well, anyway, Doug Wilder was on Fox News yesterday afternoon with Neil Cavuto, who said, you criticize President Obama. You say he's not done enough for African Americans. What do you mean by that, Governor Wilder effect?
Bill Clinton was referred to, as you've heard, as the first black president. Now, I'm not saying that Barack Obama isn't motivated with good thoughts. The results are in the pudding. And so when he leaves office, the real question will be, look at the black unemployment rate. Look at the horrible opportunities that exist for people to go to school in colleges and to get better educations. Look at the neighborhoods. Look at the crime rates.
Right, I look at it all, and look who's running the show. It's Barack Hussein Obama. Doug Wilder's back on this train where Obama's not authentic. He makes the point that Bill Clinton is the first black president. He means it. He means it. Minor correction. Hillary Clinton did not say she was a robot on Saturday Night Live. It was in an interview with BuzzFeed, podcast-type interview with BuzzFeed. I didn't even bother sending the link for the audio up to Cookie because I really don't want to waste a lot of time on this show on Hillary. I speak of this woman under duress every day anyway, but I'm kind of obligated to now, since she's got this debate tonight and CNN's downplaying expectations. I really think that's a big deal, folks. I really think it's a big deal. This debate ought to be through the roof. If Hillary is so popular and so smart and the country can't wait for her to be president, why would you downplay expectations of viewership on this thing tonight? You know, in that poll that shows Hillary Clinton would lose to every Republican, let me give you some numbers. Carly Fiorina would beat Clinton 42 to 39%. Margin of error. Jeb Bush 44 to 40. Close to margin of error. Donald Trump would beat her 45 to 40. That's a little above any margin of error. Ben Carson 50. Hillary 39. In this poll that shows Hillary losing to every Republican. And what would be the headline? I mean, wouldn't it be great if history repeated itself again? Hillary beaten by another black guy? First Barack Hussein and then Ben Carson, and he's got the biggest margin of victory over Hillary in that poll. It's a Fox News poll. I know you're asking, what poll? What poll? It's a Fox News poll. What does it matter what poll? I mean, they're all out there. Another question for Hillary, since I know that nobody's going to ask the Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick question. I know that's not going to happen tonight. So here's a question for Hillary that would be legit and could well be asked. Well, it won't be, but I mean, it suffices. The Clinton Foundation, Mrs. Clinton, has taken millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia strictly enforces a legal system in which discrimination against women is the official law of the land. Women are treated as property in Saudi Arabia, which has donated to your campaign. Women are not permitted to leave the home without their husband's permission in Saudi Arabia, which has donated to your foundation. Women are not permitted to drive in Saudi Arabia, which has donated to your foundation. A woman's testimony in a Sharia court of law is worth half a man's. In other words, a woman is presumed to be lying half the time. Women are imprisoned, beaten, and killed for violations of Islamic law in Saudi Arabia. Women who engage in sex outside marriage are subject to the death penalty. Women who are raped can be severely injured legally by their husbands. The premise being that it's the Saudi woman's fault for being raped because she obviously violated Islamic law. Women who renounce Islam are subject to the death penalty. So, Mrs. Clinton, what is this war on women you say that the Republicans are conducting when all of this happens in Saudi Arabia, which is donating handsomely to you and your husband's foundation? You know, folks, a part of me, it gets tiresome. And another part of me, it jazzes me up. Once again, your host, me, the all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing, all-everything Maharishi, blamed in the New York Times today by David Brooks as the reason American politics do not work. Me and this show 28 years ago are the reason. Right there it is. It's not new, but they're recycling it again. I didn't know about this David Brooks piece because it's in the New York Times, and I do not read the New York Times. I honestly don't. I have people that do. I can't deal with it. So I have people that do, and anything in it, these are people that know they show prep little helpers, if you will. And they fire me stuff in for the New York Times, and I throw away 90% of it. And I didn't know about this. Nobody told me about this even. Just Snerdley came in about a half hour before the program today. Greetings and welcome back. Great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone at the Distinguished Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. So Snerdley walks in here, and he says, you've been called out again. David Brooks, New York Times, all this is your fault. And I said, you're kidding. I haven't heard that. So he showed it to me. Right there it is. And I said, I'm not even going to mention this. How many times has this been said about me? You can't let this go by. This is Brooks. This is Brooks. He calls himself a conservative, and here he is lambasting you. And I said, all he wants is clickbait, Snerdley. These people all know that all I have to do is mention them, and they're going to get droves more traffic than otherwise. That's half the reason they write about me. And Snerdley said, I don't know. Even so, you just can't let this stand. I said, why not? And lo and behold, so I mentioned this as a tease in the end of the previous hour, and I got a bunch of emails. Why'd you do that? All you're doing is driving traffic to the New York Times. I knew it. Because nobody believes this. But since I've mentioned it, and by the way, Ben Shapiro, who is writing here at dailywire.com, I should mention him because he writes a piece totally refuting it. I'm one of these people. Folks, do not misunderstand this, because this is not whining. It isn't complaining. It is all I'm doing is observing here. Whenever I am under assault or under attack, I am rarely defended out there, even by people supposedly quasi on my team. And the reason for it is very understandable. They all think I can handle it myself. They don't think I need any help. They don't think I need any defending because it's not right what is being said and so forth. So it doesn't happen much. It does happen, but it doesn't happen much. In fact, sometimes it happens, and in some so-called conservatives then jump on the bandwagon. Yeah, Limbaugh's been a problem for a few years. It's all just career and professional envy and jealousy in most cases, which is also very normal. It's standard human nature. So Shapiro has written this piece refuting David Brooks, which doesn't happen much in my case. So I wanted to mention Shapiro as well as Brooks. Now, what's amazing to me, David Brooks is the guy, and I totally understand him striking back at me. I mean, I made fun of this guy ever since he told everybody that he was convinced Obama was going to be a great president because of the crease in his slacks at dinner at George Will's house. That was David Brooks. And David Brooks is the so-called conservative with Mark Maxey Shields on whatever that is. What is? I haven't seen that in so long. What's the name of that show? PBS. The News Hour. That's right, the News Hour with Jim Lauer. Well, he's not there anymore. There's somebody else, I guess Gwen Eiffel does it. I don't even know that. But Brooks is supposedly the conservative columnist at the New York Times. You know what I'm really curious about is how come it is the media loves to question the authenticity of conservative politics. Like, they'll go out and demand that Ted Cruz prove he's Hispanic by asking him, well, what's your favorite Cuban meal? Or, do you know how to hit a piñata? Have you ever been a piñata? You know, stupid stuff like that. They're always demanding that these conservatives defend or proclaim their authenticity. But they never question the authenticity of so-called conservative pundits, like Brooks here. He's not a conservative anymore. If anything, the guy's no labels. But that's the best that can be said. Fact of the matter is, he's a New York Times columnist, and he's, if anything, a moderate rhino. But there's not much authentic conservatism in Brooks anymore. But he is the guy that wrote about Obama. His crease in his slacks dazzled him and convinced him he's going to be a good president. Because I guess it meant that he was fastidious and cared so much and enough about his appearance that somebody who was that concerned about their appearance would have to be a brilliant, brilliant president. Anyway, here's the piece's headline: The Republicans' Incompetence Caucus. The House Republican caucus is close to ungovernable these days. How did this situation come about? This was not just the work of the Freedom Caucus or Ted Cruz or 1 month's activity. The Republican Party's capacity for effective self-governance degraded slowly over the course of a long chain of rhetorical excesses, mental corruptions, and philosophical betrayals. Basically, the party abandoned the traditional conservatism for right-wing radicalism. And, of course, you and I know that that's not what's happened. Traditional conservatism has been abandoned for squishy, linguini-spined, rhino moderate beliefs. And that has led them to now call what is mainstream conservatism radical. Mainstream conservatism is focused on liberty. Anyway, I don't need it. You people all get it. Republicans came to see themselves as insurgents and revolutionaries. And every revolution tends toward anarchy and ends up devouring its own. Anarchy. Revolution. Anarchy. By traditional definitions, writes Mr. Brooks, conservatism stands for intellectual humility. Intellectual humility is, I am smarter than you or anybody else, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm only going to act like it. But to proclaim intellectual humility is, to me, to proclaim intellectual braggadocio. If you are so damn smart that you need to act dumb, you must really think you are hot excrement. By traditional definitions, conservatism stands for intellectual humility. Well, I have that. I tell people all the time I'm not as smart as they think I am. I'm the most humble person in media. Well, anyway, traditional conservatism is a belief in steady, incremental change, a preference for reform rather than revolution. Really? That's how the country was founded? Reformers? Reformers wrote the founding documents? A respect for hierarchy, meaning you must respect the establishment and the various levels, and you must understand where you are on the ladder, and that's going to be at the bottom. Traditional conservatism requires respect for precedence, balance, and order, which means don't make the Democrats mad. And a tone of voice that is prudent, measured, and responsible. Well, that obviously disqualifies me. Certainly I'm not prudent or measured or responsible in their view. And I certainly lack grace. I'm sure they would add that in. That's another favorite word of these people. Conservatives of this disposition can be dull, like Brooks is, but they know how to nurture and run institutions. Really? Show me one. Show me one you're running that's winning and triumphing over anything. They also see the nation as one organic whole. Citizens may fall into different classes and political factions, but they're all joined by chains of affection that command ultimate loyalty and love, like illegal immigrants, acts of individual love. All of this has been overturned in dangerous parts of the Republican Party over the past 30 years, or at least since Rush Limbaugh came on the scene. I wish my parents were alive to read this. My grandfather, the New York Times, this would blow their minds. Over the past 30 years, or at least since Rush Limbaugh came on the scene, the Republican rhetorical tone has grown ever more bombastic, hyperbolic, and imbalanced. Public figures are prisoners of their own prose styles, and Republicans from Newt Gingrich through Ben Carson have become addicted to a crisis mentality. Civilization was always on the brink of collapse. Every setback, like the passage of Obamacare, became a ruination of the Republic. Comparisons to Nazi Germany became a staple. So you see, Brooks is a perfect illustration of that part of our country which does not think that anything that's happened in the last 7 years is abnormal or even particularly threatening or dangerous. And we who do see it that way, we are the problem, you see. Because we are crisis mongers and we've become addicted. Mr. Brooks, do you read the paper you're in? Or the Washington Post? Have you somehow missed that the standard operating procedure of the American left today is crisis after crisis after crisis? And Mr. Brooks, have you forgotten what conservatism is? Somebody has to try to stop this onslaught of the left. They are responsible for this crisis mentality because they promote crisis after crisis after crisis. And those of us with the gonads to stand up and try to stop it end up being accused of causing the crisis? You think it's perfectly normal if the federal government, and you're a conservative, would simply subsume 1/6 of the U.S. economy? That's conservatism? Well, he thinks that. Then he went on. He said, this produced a radical mindset. Conservatives started talking about the Reagan Revolution and the Gingrich Revolution among people too ill-educated to understand the different spheres. In other words, you people who are too stupid and too dumb, you mind-numbed robots who listen to Svengalis like me, adopted these same mental habits of the entrepreneur, i.e. me. Everything had to be transformational and disruptive. Hierarchy and authority were equated with injustice. Self-expression became more valued than self-restraint and coalition building. Self-restraint? You mean like our rules of engagement in Afghanistan, where we can't fire? A contempt for politics infested the Republican mind. No, Mr. Brooks, a contempt for liberalism, which, thanks to you, is winning every damn day. Because of you and people like you, your liberal friends are literally winning today. And the fact that you don't even see a competition with them, big problem, sir. Politics is the process of making decisions amid diverse opinions. No, politics is the art of winning. About your cherished principled beliefs. Politics is the art of persuasion. It involves conversation, calm deliberation, self-discipline. Right, like we see on the Democrat side every day when they're out there lying about Romney and his taxes, or Romney and the guy's wife who died with cancer. Romney didn't care, maybe even caused it. You sit idly by while people on your side are ruined and defamed. And call for calm deliberation, self-discipline, and the capacity to listen to the liars. But this new Republican faction, i.e., Rush Limbaugh, regards the messy business of politics as soiled and impure. Compromise is corruption. Inconvenient facts are ignored. Countrymen with different views are regarded as aliens. Political identity became a sort of ethnic identity, and any compromise regarded as a blood betrayal. Yeah, well, I don't know what there is to compromise with liberals on. When's the last time they compromised with you, Dave? Well, you're not a good one to ask because you agree with them on everything. When's the last time the liberals compromised? They don't. We're the ones that have to change our attitude on immigration. We're the ones that got to change our attitude on abortion. We're the ones that have to always do the things that really add up to us just kissing away our principles. At least we still have some. But this is classic ruling class drivel that passes for high intellect and brilliant reason and so forth. Now, Shapiro just rips this to pieces in his piece at dailywire.com. Brooks writes, over the past 30 years, or at least since El Rushbo came on the scene, the Republican rhetorical tone has grown ever more bombastic, blah, blah, blah. Shapiro writes, one wonders whether Brooks has ever listened to 5 minutes of Rush Limbaugh, or whether Limbaugh is too gauche for his chi-chi sensibilities. Blaming Rush Limbaugh for conservative radicalism while ignoring Limbaugh's role in returning Congress to Republican control in 1994 seems odd. Blasting Newt Gingrich, the architect of that victory, seems equally odd when you're talking about successful Republican movements. And there's more. He even calls Brooks horse excrement, except he doesn't say excrement. Greetings, my friends. Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh, troublemaker number one. All across the fruited plain. You know, there's one thing that Brooks is right about, and he doesn't know it. And I've even said this on the air. I think, you know what, let me go to the phones because there's not enough time to fully develop this and say it the way I want to say it. But I think the arrival of this program and the giant conservative army that it built, with all other talk shows and the conservative bloggers, I think that is what awoke the drive-by media from their phony objectivity and turned them into the partisans they are. It blew up their monopoly. Back in 1988, they had a monopoly on everything. CNN was the only cable news network, and that was it. The three networks, the newspapers, magazines, they owned everything. In 88, this program starts, and that began the end of their monopoly. And that is when they freaked out. And that's when they began to stop hiding what they really are, extreme radical leftists. And they became competitors. And they threw off this objectivity yoke, and they just, they tried to maintain that they were fair and balanced and all this other stuff that they always have, but the truth was displayed. It was exposed, and they were forced to adopt public positions, portrayals of exactly who they've always been. Like Cronkite was the biggest arch leftist that you would ever find, but nobody ever would think that. He never had to come out and be it. But in 1988, they all had to come to the surface because there was competition for their audience, which they have lost. So now they are constantly trying to prove that they can still move people, that shape and make public opinion rather than reflect it. And that has created competition a on the surface, not beneath the surface, competition. In the news business, where there supposedly isn't supposed to be objective, they're not supposed to be known ideologically, party-wise, one way or the other, but now there's no pretense whatsoever. Anyway, now I have, in explaining that, I chatted all the way through what was going to be the first call of the day. So that won't happen until after this break coming up. Another obscene profit break here on the EIB network, and we'll come back and get started with phone call portion of today's excursion into broadcast excellence. Stay right where you are. Okay, to the phones we go to Palm Bay, Florida. Up first is Keith. It's great to have you with us today, sir, and hello.
Thanks, Russ. I haven't heard anybody compare the location that the Democrat Socialist parties have in their debate tonight to the Republicans. The last Republican debate was in the prestigious Ronald Reagan Library. Their debate is in Sin City in the middle of a casino where they should feel very comfortable lying. Sin City. So that's okay for them to lie. And
where was the first? Where was the first Republican debate?
I believe it was in a Fox studio, something like a community center or something.
And it was in Cleveland. It was the home of the Republican convention.
Right.
The upcoming Republican. Now, the reason the Democrats in Vegas, I love your comparison. I mean, here the Democrats are in Sin City, having their convention basically in a casino. But it's also a union capital of the country. Las Vegas has unionized employees in practically every work endeavor in Las Vegas. And they have a lot of powerful union bosses in Las Vegas. And that is why they are there. I mean, in addition to whatever else, why the DNC wanted to go there. I mean, it's a week-long party at the Wynn and throughout the Strip. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot going on out there this week, just besides this debate and all that. But it's an interesting observation, nevertheless.
The only thing that would have made it better is if they would have got Brian Williams from MSNBC to moderate it.
Don't make me. If you start making me laugh, see, I'm going to start this congested cough routine. By the way, Drudge just posted something up here from the Weekly Standard, and I just had a chance to click on it right as the spot segment was ending, and it is that Anderson Cooper is a member of the Clinton Foundation, or the Clinton Global Initiative, which is a subset of the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation. It actually says here that he is listed as a notable past member of the Clinton Global Initiative, along with Christiana Manpour of CNN, Greta Van Susteren of Fox, is a former Matt Lauer and Tom Brokaw of NBC, Thomas Loopy Friedman of the New York Times, Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times, the money honey Maria Bartiromo is also a former, a notable past member, and then Katie Couric. Let's see, that's it for the names. But even if you're a notable past member of the Clinton Global Initiative, which, that is. The Clinton Global Initiative takes place in New York at the same time the United Nations General Assembly meets every October. And that's because there's women from all over the world in town for that 2-week stretch there. So the Clinton Global Initiative takes place in different venues than the UN, of course, but it takes place at the same time. And all of these journalists have been members. So Anderson Cooper is one of the debate moderators tonight. And the reason the Weekly Standard's running a story is, okay, here's a notable past member, but he was a member in good standing of the Clinton Global Initiative, and here he is, supposedly lined up to ask tough questions of Mrs. Clinton, who is half of the Clinton Global Initiative. Interesting point. Keith, I appreciate the call. Mesa, Arizona next. Jeremy, hello, sir. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hi.
Hi, Russ. Thanks for letting me on. My question for you has to do with Donald Trump's foreign policy. With a couple things that he's said and with articles that have been out there, it seems like he's going to be a little weaker on foreign policy and not be the police of the world, as he said, and maybe be more libertarian. What do you think about that?
Well, the problem with trying to make these kinds of assessments is that all we've got to go on is what Trump says. And not that you can't rely on it. It's just that there is no real-world test that in a foreign policy question that Trump's faced yet. It's not a disqualification by any stretch. Don't misunderstand me. My assessment is that Trump's theme is America's going to kick ass again. And I take that to mean, he's been very blunt. He's not going to let the Mexicans run rings around us. He's not going to let the Chi-Coms run rings around us. The Iranian deal is a bad deal. But I think in direct relations with these companies, I don't think there's going to be anything libertarian about him at all. I think he's going to be full-blown American national. When it comes to little hot spots and skirmishes all over the world and whether or not we're going to send a little force here, a little force there, that's what I think he means he's not going to get involved in. But he's also said he's going to have the best minds he can find to advise him on these kinds of things. Look, folks, you're going to have to find ways. If you're a Trump supporter, you're going to have to find ways to comfort yourself. Look at what he said to the woman who was the Jeb Bush plant at the No Labels problem solvers meeting in New Hampshire yesterday. Here's this Jeb Bush campaign worker, shows up in there and tries to trip Trump up on a question about women. And one of her last points was, and as a woman, am I going to have the right to do with my body what I want to do with my body? And Trump's, I'm pro-life. You should know that I'm pro-life. That's probably going to come as a surprise to a lot of Trump supporters. Same thing happened during the Perot campaign. Perot took positions that were at variance with some of his most ardent supporters, and they had to find a way to either rationalize it or subordinate those things that they disagreed with Trump on and say, okay, fine and dandy, not the most important thing happening in the country right now, and look the other way. This is something people are going to have to come to grips with. Trump made the point. He says here, let me give you a headline. This is from thehill.com. Trump, I will be much less divisive as field narrows. Donald Trump said yesterday at a bipartisan convention, this is this no labels thing, he said he defended his harsh jabs at opponents as mainly defensive and necessary given the crowded field. He says, look, I'm running against a lot of people. Many are going to be dropping out. I think very soon, if they're smart, they're going to be dropping out. There are too many people in this thing. And he promised to rein in his punches once the field narrows. He said, when it becomes a different kind of situation out there, we'll see that I'm going to be much less divisive, he told the crowd at No Labels. Now, right before saying this, he had really torn into Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio as puppets. He said, believe me, they're puppets. Talking about the fact that they are subordinate to all the donors that are giving them money. And he's not taking any money at all. And when the donors give you money, they're demanding results. You're going to have to satisfy them. He says, I'm not going to have that problem. I'm taking any of their money. But what do you think of this? What do you think of Trump saying, I'm going to be much less divisive? Is that an admission that he's being divisive now? Is that what he meant to say? I'm going to be much less divisive, or did he mean to say I'm going to be much less combative because there aren't going to be as many combatants? He makes, look, I don't go after anybody. I don't say a thing about anybody until they come after me. And when they come after me, I punch back. That's what I do. But I don't get up every day and say, who can I attack today? Who am I going to attack today? I wait till I'm attacked. And he says, since there are going to be fewer people, there will be fewer attacks, and I will be less divisive. And I think what he meant to say was less combative. And if that means he's going to mellow out, what portion of his support base likes the upfront, nothing hidden, in your face, here's who I am and here's what I'm going to do. If that gets moderated, are people going to end up being disappointed? We won't know this until any of it happens. So, and your question, is he going to be more libertarian in foreign policy based on things that he said? Some of this is going to require a roll of the dice, like it does with any candidate, by the way. Here's the thing, folks, about Trump, and I think this is where most people do come down on Trump, and I think where most people are going to come down on Trump, and that is this. The thing about Trump is that he is on the right side, and I mean the correct side, of the most important issue of our times, and that is illegal alienship. He is right about that, and that is what's carrying him, that's what's sustaining him, that's what propelled him. This is where people like David Brooks, for example, have totally abandoned not only the conservative reservation, but in some sense the American reservation. And it's crucial. It is the issue of our times. And by comparison, everything else is secondary. By comparison. Now, you can take individual issues and you make a case for them being number one, and like a pro-life, you could easily say that's the most important thing of all, because without sanctity of life and the accompanying notions of freedom and liberty, then all the rest of it's worthless. You do that with every issue, but in terms of the contemporary political and cultural scene, illegal alienship is it. And Trump is on the correct side of that. If we don't do something about that, we're not going to have a country to save. If these borders are not closed, if we do not impose the law once again, we don't, this whole idea of immigration, illegal immigration, is being conflated with immigration, legal immigration. Nobody's opposed to legal immigration. It's illegal immigration, and the efforts of the people in support of that to try to conflate it and equate it with legal immigration is offensive, because that's not what we're talking about here. In no other instance in our culture do we have people advocating openly for the wanton violation of law. You don't have a people that are in favor of murder. You don't have a group of people in favor of theft. You don't have groups of political people, theft, welfare. I'm talking about ordinary, everyday human behavior. You do not have political movements in favor of theft, in favor of murder, bank robbery, you name it. You don't have political, but we do have a huge political movement in favor of illegal immigration. And frankly, it blows the minds of everybody who happens to respect law and order, number one. Then you talk about the cultural ramifications and the overrunning of what it is to be America and an American, and that issue trumps everything else. If we don't do something about that, then there's no country to save. And this is exactly what the proponents of it realize. The proponents of illegal immigration know exactly what's going to happen if they continue to succeed, and they know what their objective is. It is to erase America. As I said last week, the objective is to erase Western civilization. It's happening all over Europe. And they've made no bones about it. The multicultural crowd, which now controls American public education, has been point-blank honest that Western civilization is the rot that's causing all this pain and suffering throughout the world and needs to go. Even Obama has joined this chorus of people ripping into Columbus with all of these phony, baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and roller bromides against essentially Western Europeans who came and quote-unquote discovered this country. They are now the enemy, and Obama joined that rant. Obama's Columbus Day, or what it represents, ushered in disease, devastation, and violence. Well, the multicultural rant is that Columbus brought with him syphilis, horses, which means horse manure, means environmental destruction, racism, sexism, bigotry, and homophobia. That's what was brought in by Western Europeans who came in. It's Western civilization. That's being blamed. destroying the Indians and the Mexicans and everything else. Illegal immigration is a way to get it all back. You can't name. Maybe I'm wrong. Is there a political group in favor of murder that has the support of a political party? I'm trying to, any other illegal behavior that has the support of a major American political party. Can you think of it? Well, you can't say abortion, some think abortion is murder, but there is a Supreme Court ruling on that. So you can't throw that in here. But any other illegal activity, there isn't a vast and widespread political movement that's been embraced by an American political party like the breaking of immigration law has been embraced. I don't know what's wrong with being divisive, by the way. It's, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. And divisive is only a pejorative in the sense that we have people who think that we need to cooperate and be bipartisan and work together and all of that other just pablum puke that denies the hard, cold realities, political realities that we face today. You have to be divisive. You have to be in opposition. You have to be combative. That's what the Republican Party no longer is. It hasn't been for a while. But, folks, I mean, if this amnesty, this illegal amnesty, comprehensive immigration reform, if this stuff isn't stopped, you realize that people on our side of the aisle will never win another election? Just on the numbers alone, the demographics alone. California is Exhibit A. It's why that issue is far and away numero uno, and that's reason in Exhibit A why Donald Trump maintains his position in the polls. Must take another brief obscene profit timeout. Fastest 3 hours in media. Just keep rolling on here. Be back before you know it. Yeah, here's what Ben Carson said. This is in the Daily Caller. Ben Carson used a Sunday campaign stop in Georgia to accuse politicians of using poverty to bolster their voting constituencies. In his eyes, open-ended welfare has not only perpetuated poverty, it's sustained a loyal voting bloc for certain politicians. False compassion is patting them on the head and saying, you can't take care of yourself, and I'm going to give you food stamps, a housing subsidy, and free health care, Carson said, and all the things you need to do so you can stay dependent and vote for me. And they are having cows out there in the media. How dare he? And they're saying, what a neophyte. This proves he's underqualified. This proves he's not fit for politics. He doesn't even know about welfare. And he's nailed it. And he's number 2 to Trump. And he is not losing ground. And we will be right back. Hi. How are you? Great to have you back, my friends. Rush Limbaugh here behind the golden EIB microphone, executing assigned host duties flawlessly. 0 mistakes. I just got an email from a very, very close friend of mine. By the way, speaking of a close friend, how about those Steelers last night? Did you stay up late and see that game last night? You what? No, that's called Game Plan now. NFL Rewind doesn't exist anymore. You paid for that? Good way to go. I have never seen a walk-off touchdown like this. I'm sure it's happened. I just haven't seen it in regulation. You see it in overtime all the time. And the situation was the Steelers had, it was third or second and goal from the 1 yard line. Half-yard line, 5 seconds left. Down 3 on the road in San Diego playing the Chargers. Michael Vick has had a sort of off and on night. He performed well in the last drive. Steelers had 7 points or 6 points on a pick. interception. The offense has been ragged all night, but the running back, Le'Veon Bell, has had a really good night. He's over 100 yards and so forth. So what do? You're on the road. Do you kick the field goal, tie the game, go to overtime, or do you go for the win? Tomlin, the coach of the Steelers, went for the win. Le'Veon Bell, with no time left, scores the winning touchdown, and this is the kind of win that can change a season. Steelers have an just impossible schedule remaining. It's really, really a tough row to hoe here. But what a great game it was to watch last night. And the baseball playoffs are in full swing, and a lot of upsets happening. You know what happened? The Royals yesterday, they were playing when this program ended, and the Royals went into the 8th inning down, 4? They were down 4, and the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, who we all love, sent a tweet out congratulating the Astros for winning and moving on to the American League Championship Series. The problem was the game wasn't over. There were still 2 innings to play. The Royals ended up winning the game 9-6, taking the game back to Kansas City for Game 5, which is the last game of the series tomorrow night. Now, today, the Cubs and the Cardinals, they have an elimination game for the Cardinals today. If the Cubs win today, it's over. Cardinals will lose that series. Cubs will win it. And the Mets and the Dodgers tonight. And both those games are on TBS. And that's a big New York audience that's going to be watching TBS and not watching CNN. And the debates. This is the best time of year for sports fans that you can feel. If you like baseball, you like football, this is the absolute best time of year. There's something important happening practically every night. And if you throw college football in there, if you like that, then you're really in nirvana. Now, all of this reminds me, a close friend, Snerdley, you want to hear this, a close friend of mine said, I think you missed the point of the Brooks piece. He said, keep a sharp eye now. If the Brooks piece gives other Republicans cover to start blaming you for everything. His friend of mine said a lot of these elected Republicans, the stories in the news media constantly say how afraid they are to oppose you. They don't want to be. Remember that story last week? None of them want to be speaker because they'll have to deal with me, which I think is utter nonsense, by the way. I think it's total BS, but the stories are out there. So this friend of mine says, you better just keep a sharp eye because that Brooks piece could be covered. Now all these Republicans who think you're in the way, all they got to do is agree with Brooks. They don't have to come out and hit you on their own. They've just got to agree with Brooks. He says, you keep a sharp eye. They can be ready to throw you overboard inside of 2 days here. And I said, well, I don't know. This has happened many times before. This is not the first time somebody in the drive-by media has taken after me. But I thought it was an interesting point. And by the way, if it were to happen, let me just leave it at that. I don't want to try to foretell the future on that. But if things play out here as I think they're going to, I will be honest with you and tell you, yep, I was going to tell you that, but then I pulled back rather than make the prediction. You know, folks, it's not just David Brooks. Barack Hussein O., the President of the United States. This is on the New York Review of Books.com, their website. Not to be confused with the New York Times. The New York Review of Books. What do you think the New York Review of Books is? Well, yeah, Snerdley, is it some literary thing for the publishing community? Well, it sounds like it's a bunch of people that review books. The New York Review of Books. If that's what it was, that'd be no thing. But these people are every bit the far-left lunatics that the New York Times is. They are left-wing advocates disguised as literary intellectuals, reviewing only the finest works. So anyway, Obama shows up. They've got this sort of like a podcast thing that they do on their website. And he was having a conversation with Marilyn Robinson at the New York Review of Books. It's called President Obama and Marilyn Robinson, A Conversation in Iowa. And during the interview, Obama said this.
People always I think, were surprised about me connecting with folks in small-town Iowa. And the reason I did was, first of all, I had the benefit that at the time nobody expected me to win, and so I wasn't viewed through this prism of Fox News and conservative media and making me scary.
Yeah, he's got this on the brain. I live rent-free in his brain and in Bill Clinton's and in Hillary's. I live rent-free in all three. I'm the original Airbnb, except I don't pay for it. I am in their brains. Obama is out there constantly blaming Fox and conservative media, that's me. So it's not just Brooks. And this is not the first time for Obama. But you know what's wrong with the whole premise of this question is wrong. When he says, people always think we're surprised about me connecting with folks in small-town Iowa. He didn't connect with people in small-town Iowa. He's talking about winning the Hawkeye Caucus. Do you know how he won the Hawkeye Caucus? You remember how he won the Iowa Caucus? He bussed everybody in from out of state. They changed the rules on who could go to a caucus. He didn't win any small-time Iowa fans. I mean, other than traditional Democrat caucus goers. He didn't make any connection with small-town Iowans. That's just revisionist history based on the fact that he won the Hawkeye Caucus back in 2008. And, you know, Hillary was expected to win. That was the first big upset. The Hawkeye Caucus, that was supposed to launch Hillary on her coronation. And Obama comes in and wins this thing, and he did it with a lot of people bussed in. And, I mean, it was almost an in-your-face flouting of the rules of the Hawkeye Caucus, as I recall it here. Remember, this is the guy. Let's go back to April 6th of 2008. This is at a Democrat fundraiser where he's speaking, and he doesn't know that there's somebody with a camera and a microphone in there.
They get better, and they claim to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them.
That's the bitter Klinger comment. Here's Obama talking, oh, yeah, I had a great connection with small-town Iowa. Yeah, man, they loved me before Fox News got hold of me and before conservative media got hold of me and made me scary. They loved me there. But in April of 2008, this was during the campaign. You know, this is shortly after the Hawkeye Caucus, in fact. Obama, oh yeah, these people, they get bitter. They cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them. I know you remember that comment. This is Obama describing middle America. This is Obama describing what he thinks are the average, ordinary Republicans out there. Small-minded, feeble-minded, bigots, racist, go to church every Sunday, pro-lifers, maybe a pickup gun, back window of the pickup truck, or a shotgun in the back window of a pickup truck. And they don't know anything. They're not very bright. And they cling to all these things that give them faith when they're being overrun by things they don't understand, like people like me, or women, or, you know, anybody that isn't white. You know, they freak out, and they cling to their guns or their religion or their antipathy or what have you. And that same guy is out trying to say, yeah, I was loved by small-town Iowa. The problem is he didn't like small-town. He doesn't like small-towners. This is a guy trying to eliminate suburbs, or at least eliminate the voting power and economic power of suburbia. Robin Roberts on Good Morning America today was talking about Bill Clinton and whether or not he was going to be in Las Vegas. I mean, get his wife there, big Democrat debate. Where's der Schlickmeister?
Former President Bill Clinton, he is there in Las Vegas with the front runner. He's not expected to be in the room tonight.
No, but I'll bet you he's in town. Maybe out at the Bunny Ranch. But he's, well, no, he wouldn't have to pay for it. He'd be an honored guest. No, he's not going to be in the room, but of course he'll be in town. Is there any doubt? Here's Hillary. Last night I mentioned that she went over to Trump's hotel and tried to, I don't know what you'd call this, harass or jab or tweak Trump While she's down on the street shouting insults. He's supposedly up in the hotel enjoying some time off, supposed to be terribly frightened by what Hillary's doing out there. This is what she said.
You know, some people think Mr. Trump is entertaining, but I don't think it's entertaining when somebody insults immigrants, insults women. That is just unacceptable behavior.
So how does Hillary Clinton get attention? She goes out and talks about Donald Trump. Again, I want to remind you, this is a point that I made 2 hours ago in the first hour of today's busy broadcast, and this is that CNN has been downplaying expectations, ratings expectations for their debate tonight. And I'm asking, how do you do that? You've got Hillary Clinton. You have the next president of the United States on your network tonight. You have the presumptive Democrat nominee, the presumptive next president. You've got the smartest woman in the world, the former Secretary of State, the wife of Bill Clinton. How do you get bigger than that? What are you doing downplaying your ratings expectations? I think CNN ought to be hyping this debate, building up expectations. Isn't it up to Hillary to draw the crowd? I mean, these are people running for the presidency. Is it not up to them to be compelling and interesting enough that people want to tune in to watch? What CNN knows is the numbers in this debate are not going to even approach the numbers on a Republican debate, and so they're making excuses right off the top. And their excuses are to cover for the fact that nobody cares, and nobody's interested in Hillary Clinton. And nobody's, other than to watch maybe a train wreck or somehow be entertained in some other way. And Trump said he's going to live tweet the thing. I bet you Trump's Twitter feed has more participation and more interest and a bigger audience than CNN does for the debate. In fact, Trump's live Twitter feed might help generate some audience. So people have to watch the debate and see what Trump says about it. This did not make Carol Costello happy over at CNN. She's very, very snarky about Trump doing this.
There was a tweet from Donald Trump, quote, "At the request of many, and even though I expect it to be a very, very boring 2 hours, I will be covering the Democratic debate live on Twitter." Although he said Democrat debate because you know what Republicans mean when they say Democrat.
No, Democrat is what we mean. It's not Democratic Party, it's the Democrat Party. And it's a little snarky about that. Obama wasn't through, by the way, when he starts blaming Fox News and conservative media for people thinking he's scary. In his proclamation for Columbus Day, President Obama said that European explorers to the New World ushered previously unseen disease, devastation, and violence into the lives of Native Americans. Obama acknowledged that Columbus inspired many and allowed for generations of Italians to follow, referred to the explorer as an ambitious navigator with an insatiable thirst for exploration that continues to drive us as a people. Though these early travels expanded the realm of European exploration, to many they also marked a time that forever changed the world for the indigenous peoples of North America. Previously unseen disease, devastation, and violence were introduced to their lives. And as we pay tribute to the ways in which Columbus pursued ambitious goals, we also recognize the suffering inflicted upon Native Americans, and we recommit to strengthening tribal sovereignty and maintaining our strong ties. Doesn't Obama preach strengthening tribal sovereignty all the time? When in fact what we need is for people to assimilate rather than engage in tribal sovereignty. But anyway, look at what Obama does here. He praises Columbus as an explorer and as an adventurer. But the results of Columbus's arrival here are all negative. There isn't one positive. Columbus ushered in the Western Europeans, is what ushered in disease, devastation, and violence. You can't find a positive aspect of Western Europeans arriving on this continent in Barack Obama's words or in his mind at all. And it only became the biggest, greatest, best country in the history of humanity. But how does he see it? Disease, devastation, violence. And that's what's being taught in public schools today, folks. And that is exactly why I'm writing these children's books. The fourth one we just announced, Rush, Revere, and the Star-Spangled Banner, can pre-order now and goes on sale on October 27th. Got to take a brief time out. Be right back. Stay with me. Another friend has written about the Brooks speech. You did any of your other friends wrong. This is not about anything other than the establishment of the Republican Party is totally frazzled and at its wit's end, and they have to lash out and blame somebody for it, and it's you. They're losing Boehner. They can't control anything. The conservative caucus is taking over the House of Representatives, and so they got to lash out and blame you. So that's what you think it is, Snerdley? All right, well, whatever. I don't know. Who do I write to thank? I mean, that's the real question here. To whom do I send a thank you note? Because I know it's not Brooks's idea. I'm sure he had no problem doing it. Pam in Sunset Beach, North Carolina. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
And I want you to know that my grandson and I thoroughly enjoyed the Rush Revere books. But Snerdley said to get right to my point, and you were talking earlier about speculation of Donald Trump's withdrawal. I have my own speculation of Hillary Clinton's withdrawal. I think she'll be feigning some kind of health issue to get out of this race, because who could possibly, everyone seemed to accept the fact that because of a head injury or whatever, she didn't know what was going on with Benghazi after she said during her last presidential run, who would you want to answer the phone at 2 a.m. in the morning? Well, we know we don't want her, that's for sure. Is that to the point, Snerdley?
Whoa. It sounds to me like the call screener really came down on you during this call. You are the first caller that's ever talked back to the screener on air.
Well, I've talked to Snerdley twice before, and I got to speak with you, so I tried to listen to...
Okay, so Snerdley rejected you twice, put you through today.
No, he didn't.
So you're
reject
talking
me.
back to him now. How is that brief enough, Snerdley?
Getting used to him, that's all.
So you think Hillary's going to withdraw, and the question is when should she, because she suffered a head injury during the snipper fire incident.
Well, something. Why is it that the media never went into detail about why?
Because she's Hillary. They're not going to... Look, we'll take this up. I will when we get back. It is the most listened to radio talk show in the country. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone. It's an interesting thing. What our last caller was referencing that the media is constantly running stories on when will Trump drop out, when he's never said that he would. He was answering a question about his opponents, and he said if I were 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, if I was hopelessly at the bottom of these polls, I would drop out. And that became, Trump says if he starts losing in the polls, he will withdraw from the race. And he's never, ever said that. And they're obsessed with it because that's what they want. And our caller said, in the meantime, isn't the real likelihood that Hillary Clinton would withdraw? Because if you look, you can find stories that her health is not good. And it's not just that she hit her head, had a concussion. There's just her overall health isn't good. There are stories out there about how her staffers are concerned and this and that. The media is never going to do stories on Hillary withdrawing, though. It's the last thing in the world they want, and it's not something that they will speculate about. And I don't know. Since I can't imagine doing this anyway, running for president, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because it's a whole stupid reasons I just couldn't do it. But these people that do have a And again, Hillary's case, I think she's missing a lot of the things that most quote unquote ordinary candidates have that propel them. And the biggest thing these people have is almost a maniacal belief that the country needs them, that things are either so dire or in some other state that only they can fix, only they can resolve issues. It's an ego thing, and it's not bad, but it is something that is necessary psychologically to propel you through this and to put up with everything that goes along with it, because it's totally abnormal. And the minute you announce you're a suspect, the media, especially if you're a Republican, start to destroy you. The Democrats and the media, which is one group, try to find everything they can about you to ruin you, not just defeat you, but ruin you and your family. So it takes some real interesting psychology to want to do that. I don't think Hillary has any of that. I think in Hillary's mind, it's owed her. It's an entitlement type thing. It should be a coronation. I think she's lived it long enough that she really does believe that everything she's done to save her husband and to save the party and save the country, blah, blah, they owe her, and they owe her big, and they even owe her more now than they did in 2008, because 2008 was hers. That was the deal. And then they threw her overboard the first moment somebody they liked better came along. And I think that sting is still painful. I think that sting is still stinging. And I think there's a lot of resentment and a lot of anger over it. And in Hillary's case, that manifests itself as even more entitlement. And I think in this go-around, she's not relying on people and their word. She's been taking all this foreign money. She has been taking all of these donations from outside sources. I think that she's got ammo, shall we say, to use if they try to bring forth another Barack Hussein Obama on her, and that could just be Biden. But I guarantee you that when she sees news stories about all these Democrats wanting Biden, I guarantee she gets together with Huma, and they start cursing people in the Democrat Party left and right. And they call Bill. And what the hell's going on, Bill? Who is this? What do you mean Biden? This is mine. It's mine. It was mine in 2000. It's mine now. What are they doing? I guarantee you, in this climate, there's no way she's going to give them the satisfaction of dropping out. Not for any conventional reason like, it's over, I can't win. Now, if there's an illness there that nobody knows about, that's a whole other thing we can't know, but I just don't see Hillary Clinton dropping out. I think her whole life, and believe me, she thinks of herself as a victim. She is the number one victim. She's the most cheated on woman in America. Look at what she's put up with. And really all that she's gotten for it is health care. In 1993, you can say, Senator, but she had to be elected to that. And Secretary of State, big whoop, she had to do that because Obama asked her, but she didn't want to do that. But you don't turn that down if you're going to run for president later on. You have to show party loyalty and all that. She didn't want anything to do with that. That's why Benghazi, she didn't care about it. She didn't know what was going on. That whole job was just a placeholder for her. So he's got this big sense of entitlement, coupled now with a bunch of resentment and anger over the fact it didn't happen in 2008, coupled with her victim mentality. And don't doubt me on that. So I don't see her pulling out or withdrawing from the race. In her mind, she's probably thinks that she's running for re-election. Essentially, 2008 was hers, and going back 1992, she was in the White House for 8 years with her husband, and it should have been her then too. and all that, given he wouldn't be anywhere without her. I can see her telling herself this every day. And you know how women are when they get together and start talking about their husbands. Well, you imagine her and Huma sitting around. Can you imagine that conversation about Wiener and Clinton? Man, would you love to be a fly on the wall for those talks? Okay, here's Victoria in Kingsford, Michigan. It's great to have you on the EIB network. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, so I'm one of those loony liberal 20-somethings, and my dad, he pretty much agrees with everything you say, and I pretty much disagree. But I love my dad more than anything in the entire world, and I hate it when we fight, and we're both passionate about these things, and I just want advice on how to talk to my dad. If you have anything that you think I should read, anything that you think I should keep in mind.
Well, wait, I don't yet understand what the problem is.
Well, whenever we start talking about anything like global economics or, foreign policy or the environment, we end up getting in a fight every single time.
Wait, are you not a conservative?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not oh, that's the problem. So your dad's very conservative and you're not.
No.
Oh, okay, so you're a liberal?
Yeah, and my dad's conservative, and he's my favorite person in the world, and I love him more than anything. And I hate fighting with him, and I just want to know how he and I can communicate better, and what I should do. What can I do on my end to help us get along better when we talk about politics? Otherwise, we get along famously.
You get along famously on everything but politics, you say?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I need to collect some information, and I need you to answer me as honestly as you can.
Yes.
When you are in these conversations with your dad, who do you think, honestly, is the most rigid and inflexible, you or him?
I honestly think it's a pretty big, it's a tie when it comes to that. And then we both start to feel like we're insulting each other's intelligence. We both start to get frustrated.
Okay, so what do you love your dad, which I understand. You love your dad, and you wish you probably agreed with him on things, but you don't, and you don't want to change your core beliefs, and yet you don't want to have these disagreements. So have you thought, just for the sake of getting along and the comedy of everything here, because you love your dad, have you thought about maybe suggesting that you and he not talk about those things when you're together?
Dad, do you think we can do that? Do you think we can agree to not talk about this stuff?
Do I think you can agree to talk?
No, I'm asking my dad right now because you're on speakerphone.
Yeah, we should agree not to talk about this stuff.
Okay, Rush Limbaugh is telling us that we should avoid that. I think that's going to have to be the answer.
Okay, well, that was just my first stab at this. So your dad's there with you here?
Yeah.
Okay. So understand I'm a little bit of a disadvantage because of my hearing, so I'm having to read what you're saying as it's transcribed. So I'm a little bit behind you here, so don't. I'm not confused. I'm just waiting. I have to wait to catch up to what you're saying. When your dad gets added in, it's a little more confusing. So that would be one thing. But I gather you would actually love to be able to talk to him about these things and still not have anger and war break out, right?
Yes, that would be perfect.
Well, you might try something along the lines of, Dad, you know what? You're older than I am, and you've lived much longer than I have, and you are much wiser, and you know much more than I know right now. So maybe you're right. Give me time to catch up to you, or something like that. And then keep talking about these things.
Mm. Well, I will keep an open mind.
Because you'd love your dad. You know, I mean, do you this anger that you have with him, do you, I mean, it doesn't lessen your affection for him at all.
No.
It doesn't make you want to not be around him as much, right? At least that's...
No. not at all. We just get heated once we start talking about it.
Well, see,
and then,
let me tell you what his frustration is. I can almost, his frustration, he loves you so much, and he is very passionate about what he believes. You are his daughter. He only wants the best for you. He really, really hopes, since he totally trusts everything he believes, he wants the best in the world for you, and he thinks you're not going to get that until you start seeing things the way he does. And if you just let him know that you understand that all he really cares about is your best interests, and I think all of these disagreements can be managed, if you will. So as long as you're not suspecting motives, get bad motive out of the way, as long as you both recognize that all of this is rooted in love and both of you wanting the best for each other, you ought to be able to manage it. And then the next thing you should do, Victoria, is start listening to this program every day, all 3 hours, and the problem will resolve itself. Say, Victoria, very quickly, I wanted to offer you something that you could give to your dad if it works. You still there?
Yes.
Okay, does your dad have a cell phone?
Yes.
What kind?
An iPhone.
He has an iPhone. Would he like a new one? I could send you a new iPhone that you could give to him as a result of you having taken time to call this program to try to, family unity and so forth. It just as a little gift, something you could give him.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Now, do you happen to know what cellular carrier he is on?
AT&T.
Okay. Does he want a big one or a regular size one, would you think?
He just left with my mom to go to a doctor's appointment, but I'm going to guess that he wants a bigger one.
Fine and dandy. So I'm going to send him a big boy, iPhone 6S Plus, and you hang on, Snurdly, get the address. We'll send it to you, and then you can give it to him if you want.
You are so amazing. Thank you so much.
We love family togetherness here on this program. It's one of the many services that we provide. And so don't hang up so Mr. Snurdly can get your address. And you get a little surprise you'll have for him. Well, okay, I'll offer her one too then. I don't want to be accused of only offering the conservative one. So offer her. Jeez! Try to do a nice thing and still get critics. Okay, well, we'll have unique analysis and commentary on whatever happens tonight. Both the two baseball games and the Democrat debate. That's right. So thanks for being with us today, folks. And we'll be back here tomorrow, 21 hours. See you then.